Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back to the show. Thank you for being here. Today's episode, we're going to talk about some things that I learned in college. Can you believe it? Before we get started, there is something that I want to pull off the shelf. Okay. Here we go. What do we have today? Yeah. And if you can't read, that is a highliner Hazy IPA. And what is a highliner Hazy IPA? I'll tell you. It's a hazy, and it's a India Pale Ale, and it's 6%. Okay, that's good. And they say it's a bit of a tropical, smooth, juicy beverage. Nice and juicy. Okay. All right, Avery, let's see what you got. This is a new one. I haven't tried this one yet. Cracking into it in 3, 2, 1. Oh, yeah. And I do like a nice, juicy, hazy, tropical, smooth IPA, so we'll see what this is all about. Wow. That's something right there. Let's dive into this. Some stuff I learned in college. Here we go. All right, 5 things I actually learned in college. The first point I made was I learned more socially than I did academically. Okay. College is an introspective learning experience. What I learned about myself and who I am is infinitely more important than what I learned about common stock macronutrients and cloud formations. They do teach you about kind of a bunch of random stuff in college. I did take geography, and they taught us about cloud formations, stratus, cumulus, some other stuff. And the macronutrients, I took, what's it called? Health. Learned about macros. Kind of useful, but anyways, it's kind of random stuff. So prior to attending college, I assumed the people in it were completely different than those I went to high school with. I thought everyone would be mature. I thought everyone would be studious. I thought everyone would be ambitious. Well, I was wrong. So here I'm kind of saying I thought people would be striving higher in college because I left high school. I kind of had fun in high school, and I was going to college to kind of, expand my horizons or whatever. And I thought other people would be on that same journey, but I got to college and I realized, people still just party and get drunk. And I thought everyone here would kind of be more on their knowledge grind, but I was wrong. So the problem is I expected people to think and act like me. Almost immediately, I learned everyone has totally different goals in college. Yep, and I remember when I got to college my freshman year, I was spending a lot of time in the library. I was really taking my studies pretty serious, being to class on time, actually doing the homework, actually absorbing the information. And I was a little disappointed when I realized that there were so many people at my college that were just there to party. I didn't go to a prestigious college. I went to WKU, Western Kentucky University in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and the acceptance rate there is very high. They'll let pretty much anyone in the doors there. So it wasn't like I was at a prestigious school, but I just thought, man, if you're going to go to college, obviously, if you're going to be paying to be here, you're going to be, getting the most out of the intellectual educational experience. And I was wrong. There was people there just to have fun, make friends, and slam some Bud Light. I mean, they were there. There were those types of people there. So anyways, it kind of bothered me in the beginning, but then there was kind of some liberation and that's fine. That's their thing. If they want to do that, they're allowed to. This is, you're allowed to get out of college what you pursue. So once I realized they were doing that, I was like, well, I'm going to be doing my own thing. And, I'm going to take this 4 years to kind of learn and grow as a human and become a better individual and more rounded and more smarter. I'm going to move the candle. I don't want to catch my foot on fire. Hang on. All right. Should I just put it right here? put it right there. All right. All right. So the first thing I learned in college, hey, you learn more, you learn kind of where you fit in socially, and that's a good thing. I was a bookworm. I wasn't the frat party guy. That's good to know. All right, number 2, the second thing I learned in college. Here we go. Being scared and passive is a total waste of time. Yup. During my first 2 years in school, there were plenty of amazing things I wanted to experience. However, I wasn't very proactive in pursuing what I wanted because I was introverted, afraid of change, and relatively stupid. So I resorted to wishful thinking. Merely hoping for something will not make it happen. Hoping for a 4.0 GPA will not improve your grades. Wishing for better friends won't attract new ones. Dreaming of a business will not create a plan for it. So I did a lot of wishful thinking and hoping my sophomore year. And you know what that got me? A lot of nights in my dorm playing PS4 by myself. And even though I wanted to meet new people and go on unique adventures, I didn't do much besides hope it would one day magically happen. So you have to put yourself in uncomfortable, sometimes awkward situations in order to change and grow. All right. So the thing that I'm learning there is the importance of being able to go out and act and take action. My freshman year, I kind of was like, I'm going to become a better version of myself. And then by my sophomore year, I'm like, what does that even look like? So I started thinking, probably making some really good friends, probably doing like fun adventures, exceeding in my classes, going above and beyond in my classes. These would all be good things. And even though I had that desire, that want, I was realizing that all that is really all for naught if you do not take action. So, even though I was dreaming a lot, I was thinking big ideas. I was like, I was kind of like thinking, what do I want to do with my life? Do I want to start a business? Do I want to create a new product or service? Do I want to be an entrepreneur? Do I want to start, some sort of cause of my own? And I was thinking about it a lot, but I kind of lacked the application of actually going out and putting my actions behind my desires. So I was learning that, So it's not a great idea to go through life passive. You're going to waste a lot of time if you're just passive. You're literally just letting time pass you by. That's the definition of passive. So that was the second thing I learned. Take action. Do it. All right. The third thing I learned in college, I'm thinking of that SpongeBob. What I learned in boarding school is, all right, I'll cut that part out. All right, the third thing I learned, here we go. Your degree does not define you or your future. So there was one point in my college career where I had an actual breakdown because I thought I picked the wrong major. 3 years into the accounting program at my school, I was ready to jump ship and change majors to something completely different. I felt like my degree held me to a pigeonhole, like it decided the one and only type of job I could ever possibly have. Everyone around me hated accounting, especially those who had the same degree and were pursuing it. So why on earth am I about to do this for the rest of my life? That's what I thought. This dilemma, it drove me nuts. I opted to meet with some trustworthy advisors and professors to get input on what I should do. Basically, they all said the same thing. Your degree does not define you or your future. They backed their claims with stories from their own personal experience. They told me I graduated with this degree and ended up in this other field. And they told me that you will always have other options and opportunities around you. So after doing research, I was kind of shocked to learn that nearly 70% of college graduates work a job unrelated to what they learned in school. And that kind of makes sense. Like myself, most students decide their major at 18 years old. It should not be a surprise that people end up doing and wanting different things as they mature over time. Yep. So your degree doesn't even define you or your future, That was something that I learned, and I was really, I've kind of lived through this at this point in my life, 28 years old recording this now, but I really lived through this. Your degree, it doesn't define you. You actually have a lot of options in life. And just because you go to school and study something, it brings you ahead in life. You get a higher education. You are so much more informed and organized as an individual if you can make it through college. You build good discipline, you build good time management skills, you build some autonomy as an individual. You kind of get this time to kind of develop your more mature aspects of your personality. You get used to socializing, you get used to talking in front of people with presentations, and you get used to kind of, struggling. Life is struggle, and you kind of have to struggle through things in college. And so for me, I remember struggling with feeling like I was trapped in my accounting major. And I remember I went and I talked to some advisors, and I just told them, I'm like, I don't know if I'm making the right choice in my life. And they all kind of illuminated, like, there's no rules in once you're an adult, there's no rules. You're allowed to obtain a position that you're completely, that you have no experience in. It all comes down to this like interview part. How you sell yourself, how you present what you're capable of, how you outline your plan to do well in a position. It doesn't even matter. I could go apply for, I could become a chef. I could go apply to become a chef, and even though I have no experience, that doesn't stop me from becoming a chef. Just because I didn't go to culinary school and study chefery, or whatever it's called, excuse me, you're just not pigeonholed. So that's a useful thing to learn, is that whatever you do or study or your past experience, it doesn't define your future. You create your future by how you act now. I'll take a little break on this screen recording here. We'll come back to the fourth thing. I am sweating, so I'm going to stop that. And we're back on the shelf. How you guys doing? That would be a great time to drop a comment. Tell me if you went to college. What'd you study? And if you did go to college and you did study, tell me what you learned. Tell me one thing you remember about college, a funny, doesn't have to be funny, just tell me one lesson that you learned. Maybe you learned it the easy way, maybe you learned it the hard way. Tell me one thing that you remember from college, and drop a comment now. Do it. I'll wait. Jumping back into our screen recording here. Jumping right back into it right now. Number 4. The fourth thing I learned in college that I remembered after I graduated was I figured out what I liked besides sports, video games, and partying. Wow. In college, I learned what I like to do beyond the stereotypical activities most teenagers resort to in traditional public school systems. I'll admit, I did not make the wisest decisions in high school. I spent a lot of time trying to fit in, be cool, and impress girls. I was doing that in high school. You caught me. So the bar was pretty low, but after high school, I developed better hobbies in college. I attribute 2 of my passions, writing and music, to an English class I took my junior year. Around that time, I was reading a lot, learning a lot, and I guess you could say I was thinking a lot. I realized how much I like to write once I started looking forward to 10-page essays for English 200. Nerd alert, whoa. I'll never forget one day in class, the professor, whom I admired and found really thought-provoking, acknowledged that I had a distinct and unique writing voice, or just voice. And he said it in front of everyone. He said it in front of the whole class, and I'll never forget it. So from there, I knew I liked writing, and I knew I was good at it. I wanted to start writing creatively, so I bought an iPad with a Bluetooth keyboard, and that's when I discovered GarageBand, the music app that got me into music production. So it's kind of a roundabout story, but that's how I uncovered my passions, my hobbies for writing and music, through a somewhat random college class. I guess gen eds aren't a total waste of time. That's a cool little, cute little story. So when I was in college, I started figuring out I found some better ways to spend my free time. Growing up in middle school, high school, obviously boys play video games. You're on the game, you get home from school, Hey mom, how you doing? Set your backpack down. You get on the game. That's how it works. So I did that for so much of my life, but in college I still played video games in college, but I started kind of incorporating more useful, productive ways to spend my time. So in college, I picked up reading a little bit more. I remember I never really read, extensively in high school. Never once, actually. But I remember when I was graduating and going to college, I'm like, it's probably a good idea to start reading. So I read more in college. I picked up this, writing. I was having fun writing blog posts and kind of being creative with my writing, writing stuff that was fictional, writing stuff that was life lessons, writing satire, kind of playing around with and kind of stumbling into like finding a sense of humor on what I thought was funny, developing a sense of humor through my writing. I wrote some kind of silly things in my past, but and then the music production, just a more engaging, fulfilling way to spend my time. I'm glad I got into music production, and it's like, and the great thing about college is you get exposed to all these different types of people, these different characters with different backgrounds, with different stories. You get exposed to them. Your professors tend to be pretty interesting people. They're pretty smart. They're pretty savvy with their word choice and how they speak and communicate. They can really compel you and convey ideas to you in a way because they just have so much practice, and they're wise. They have wisdom. So your professors profess wisdom to you. And that was always something that I really admired and loved about college, was just getting to listen to smart people communicate and think in real time. And I remember there was professors that were not good at their job. They would read off slides. They'd come in all unprepared. They'd come in trying to be the cool professor. Oh, you guys want to watch a movie? You guys want to, like, they're always, I never looked up to those professors. I looked up to the professors who you could tell that they had something important to share with you, and you could tell that they were passionate and cared about what they were conveying to you. And, my English 200 professor, this guy definitely doesn't remember me. There's no way he remembers me, but Professor Ryan Hall. I wonder if I could find him. I probably shouldn't find him. Probably shouldn't be putting his face on a random podcast. But anyways, it doesn't even matter his name. But I remember this professor very well, and he had such an eloquent, interesting worldview. And he really called us higher and encouraged us to, take writing seriously, take words seriously, take communication and speech somewhat seriously. And I was like, you know what? He's probably right. And so that English 200 class that I took in college really opened me up, got me into writing, and then got me into some other fun hobbies as well. So, good stuff there. We're coming around the corner. Thank you guys for being here. It means the world to me. And the fifth and final thing I learned when I was in college was that I realized how much life is out there waiting to be lived. Put that on a Hallmark card, son. All right, here we go. The greatest thing I learned in college is how much I don't know. At the time, I remember joking with my friend and soon-to-be college roommate about how awesome it'll be to go away for school. For whatever reason, we had this idea that the town we were moving to was small, boring, and comically rural. We joked about running the school and being the coolest guys there. That's funny. We did do that, and you know who you are. And we were pretending like, oh, we're coming from the city. We're coming from Cincinnati. Like we're going down to Little Podunk, Bowling Green. We're going to run the school. So dumb. So, yeah, we were lame and dumb and not even relatively dumb, actually dumb. So in college, I quickly learned that social games are not my thing. I watched a lot of people do things just to improve their social status and please other people. I saw that my freshman year, and I didn't think it was cool at all. So that's when I switched my focus to myself. I started figuring out what I like to do, which is to learn. So self-improvement took precedence over everything. Learning became my way of living, and I essentially tried to become the smartest, most skillful version of myself I could be. Over the years, as I've explored and experimented, and gain more insight, I made this really humbling realization. I know nothing. The more you know, the more you realize how much you don't know. So ultimately, I learned how limited I am as one person. In college, I got to see a full and expansive and eclectic life. And unfortunately, there's no way I'll ever be able to experience and understand all the world has to offer, but I want to try anyways because I know how much is out there I've yet to discover. Aw, so cute. Wow, so heartfelt. So, that point right there, there's just a lot of life out there to live. I remember being in college and realizing, man, I didn't even know all this was here. I grew up a small child in middle school, high school, and then I went away for college, and I'm like, dang, I didn't even know all this was here. I didn't even know all this stuff that there is to know here. And so that was pretty inspiring to me, and it kind of opened me up intellectually to kind of the idea of like, man, wow, how exciting that there's so much information in the world that I'll never even learn it all. And how fortunate am I to realize that I enjoy this whole learning thing. What a good and useful thing for me to kind of incorporate into my being and personality. Man, I like to learn, and I learned that in college. And that's something that I take with me, that I have with me today, that I have with me, hopefully I'll have it for the rest of my life. I think it's important to be a lifelong learner, because there's so much to know and learn, and because you can never fully understand and know it all, you might as well do as much as you can, and take opportunities to learn seriously, because they're opportunities, and as we talked about, opportunities don't last forever. Anyways, that's the pod. Thank you guys for tapping in. Hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed this. And if you did, why don't you just go ahead and drop a like and leave a comment. And hey, and while you're at it, subscribe. Because it does help small creators like myself grow as a channel. It helps me reach more people if you like and subscribe. So I'm just going to throw that out there. Thank you guys for tapping in. I'll catch you on the next key.